From the moment the first trailer dropped, I wanted to hate Grid Legends. I don't need failed actors playing out a soap opera. I have the F1 games for that. But I'd also be the first to tell you that it's the racing that counts. Who cares what's on the screen when you hit X to skip? So with that in mind, let's dive in. First impressions are unexpectedly positive, if you're playing on a console that is. After a short intro, you're thrown straight into the action. No practice, no setting anything up, right to the racing. The problem is that on PC, you haven't been given the chance to set up the graphics or the wheel. So I'm here running at 1/4 resolution and I can't figure out how to change the view. I get what they were going for. No fuss, just give players exactly what they want, straight up. And on console we have everything set up for you, then excellent. But on PC I'm getting distracted, wondering how long I'm going to be trapped in these settings. But the first race is soon over, leaving you to choose your story path and difficulty. Pro tip, if you're moderately fast, you want to choose Legend, otherwise this game's just going to be a complete walkover. Then it's back to the soap opera. But you know, I don't hate it. What seemed like the ultimate cringe in the trailers isn't actually that bad in the final game. Those actors who I called failed, much to my surprise, can actually act. Granted, the story's a bit heavy-handed, but you know, you kind of need to be when you only have a short period of time in between races to tell a tale. But it's the on-track action that's really going to divide opinions. When you get behind the wheel, everything tells you that this game is a sim. The menus let you turn off all the expected assists, the cars have full damage models, and you can even adjust the in-car view to match your setup. The trouble is though that Grid Legends is more Project Gotham than Project Cars. You might start out carefully braking into corners, respecting opponent cars and gingerly touching the throttle. Forget all that, it's not going to get you very far. You need to take the arcade approach, dive deep into corners. Even with ABS off, you're not locking up any brakes, and even if you misjudge it, just bounce off the wall. The game does have damage, but even on its highest settings, your car is a tank. The handling model is very grippy, you can just blast through the corners. It can be great fun driving at warp speed, weaving through high-speed chicanes. The only tricky bit is catching a slide. You're going to have to work to get the tail out, but when it goes, good luck getting it back. Gameplay is the real strength of Grid Legends. The scripting doesn't end with the actors. Races are also scripted, and this isn't as bad as it sounds. Most arcade games fall into the trap of making every race the same. Start at the back and drive through drone cars for the win. While this might technically be true of this game too, there are little differences that make it feel that bit more alive. For example, you don't always start last. Most of the time you're starting in the middle of the pack somewhere, and you don't need to win either. You have a target to meet, like finished 8th or better. This would be too easy in many games, but the AI in Grid are mostly competitive enough for this to be a decent enough challenge. Making the races feel even more alive are the scripted events that see AI cars lose wheels, flip in the air, or just suffer some crazy accident. Then, there's the variety. Each race brings a different car and location. You can go from a touring car to a stadium track to Formula E, all in the space of a few events. And the events themselves change. Most are straight up races, but thrown in a drift, eliminator, and qualifying like time trials to name but a few. Then on top of that is the varying weather and time of day. It's always nice to have rain in a racing game, and here it's done fairly well, at least graphically. The tracks have nice reflections and puddles, and water forms nice realistic droplets on the windshield. But the puddles are only visual, and ultimately the water just reduces grip and vision. It's still fun though, and the night effect is passable, if overly bright. What we have here is a fun arcade racer with decent looks, but there are problems. First up, and something that should be easy to fix, are the time attack events. It should be simple. End the event with the fastest lap time and you win, right? But here we crossed the line in first and somehow finished 6th. Let's try this again. We crossed the line in first and finished 2nd. Okay. But the real issues for me lie in the menu system. You are presented with 4 modes of play: story, career, social, and race creator. For me, story and career mean the same thing. The story mode is following your career. So what's the difference? Well, nothing basically. Career is story mode played out in a random order with random multiplayer opponents thrown in. Social is multiplayer renamed, and the race creator is just the create lobby function of the social tab. Honestly, they could have made this clearer, and the ability to just quickly create an offline one-off race would have been very much welcome. And on that note, how do we even select a car in multiplayer? It clearly says I'm selecting a vehicle, but how do I actually do it? Eventually I figured out that I need to hit whatever button 6 is on my wheel to get into the options, which is actually the car select screen. The major confusion comes from being on PC and seeing the options button just disappear whenever I try to select it with the mouse. What dev in their right mind thought a disappearing options button was better than just having a car icon to change cars? And let's just not bother trying to figure out why cars have big red locks on them when they actually aren't locked at all. On track in multiplayer, the bizarre decisions continue. Where early in the game I found the AI challenging but reasonable, the devs seem to have decided that multiplayer AI needs to be just all over the place. In one race, the AI is blasting past me on the straights in the same car, while in another race, the AI are just mobile chicanes. But why am I even talking about AI here? The whole point of multiplayer is to race real people. Why am I facing a grid of AI and rarely ever a human opponent? Granted, I'm located in Japan and maybe my time zone isn't the most active, but there must be more than 5 people playing this game when I was. Something is wrong. All in all, Grid Legends is a nice attempt to bring story-driven motorsport to the arcade. It's not a sim, let's get that straight. But it does a decent job of delivering a serious motorsport feel. You can tell the developers put quite a lot of effort into certain aspects. This is certainly no quick cash grab. Its closest competition is perhaps Project Cars 3, but they are quite different games. Where Project Cars 3 takes a simulation physics model and tries to make an arcade game out of it, Grid Legends takes an arcade physics model and tries to make a sim out of it. I think Grid succeeds a little better, but both games have their issues. The biggest of all issues this game faces is one of timing. If you want an arcade blast and already own a PC or an Xbox, then you're probably already engrossed in Forza Horizon 5. And if you have a PlayStation, well, Gran Turismo 7 is just around the corner. Are you even going to notice the launch of this game? In the end, I feel a little sorry for this game. It's going to be buried and forgotten over time, which is really harsh for a game that feels like it was made with some love. Even if it misses the mark, just a little.